And I felt like he came at me the wrong way. And I checked him. We had a conflict. He was angry. Then I got angry. And then we were both angry. And I really wasn't feeling too bad about that for a couple of days. Then I began to notice some of the folks that I work with, they felt like they were disappointed in me. I mean, they didn't say that, but I could tell because they thought, I mean, they believed that I was justified, but they couldn't believe that I responded that way. I believed it. But then I began to consider it, and I recognized how I was not really surprised in how I responded. But it's not how I've been responding. You kind of roll with things and deal with things and try to do right as much as you can. Now the problem with that is that when you try to do right as much as you can, sometimes people begin to get the wrong impression about what kind of person you are. And they see an opportunity maybe to victimize or to use, because you've been responding, not harshly like everyone else. Sometimes looks can be deceiving. You look at President Obama. They were claiming he didn't know anything about foreign policy. He was too easy on people. He was a friend to the terrorists and blah, 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 all that. Now, who got Osama bin Laden? Who's knocked out 20-some of those Al-Qaeda leadership? I mean, this cat, right? So just because a person responds softly and wants to respond civilly, doesn't mean there's not a tiger inside, okay? And given the right set of circumstances, I think there's a French word called aux apois, which means at bay, backed against a wall. There was a response a lot of times in folks that one might think is a pussycat. Might be a tiger inside. But anyway, I sort of came to my senses since then, and me and this guy, we were kind of cool and everything, but I began talking to him, and examining myself, and then talking to him, and then recognizing the issues all over the place. Many people that would work with the conflicts that are going on that I wasn't even aware of. I was just coming in and see one thing, when you try to keep your nose clean and try to do what you're supposed to do, a lot of times you're oblivious to what's going on around you. And the moment you get sort of stuck, with the pen, or you get shocked into a reality, and you're sucked in this, and then your eyes are open, and you begin recognizing that everything is corrupt. All kinds of situations are going on that you may have had no idea. So there were a couple other women where I work, and they were conflicting with each other, and I began to talk to this one, and began to talk to the other one. And even the gentleman that I had the conflict with, and then myself, each party believed that they were being wronged. Each party believed that they were innocent, and there was an issue with the other individual. And that really got me to thinking. Got me thinking, well, first about Richard Pryor. Where in one of his comedy stand-up routines, he was talking about the blind man that stepped on your toe. Now, what would you do? What would you do if a blind man stepped on your toe? Would you really trip out with him? Or would you sort of understand because he's blind, and his blindness is the actions that come forth from his blindness, like not seeing where he's going, stepping on your toe, simply a manifestation of his illness, of his sickness. So no, you wouldn't get mad at that man. What I'm suggesting to you today, anytime we act out of the ordinary, anytime we act ill, anytime we act crazy and mean and rotten and nasty, or even we react too sensitive and too hurtful, and our feelings are hurt, or we act too shy, or too introverted, or we act too boisterous and too overbearing. Whatever the issues are in our lives, these are issues for sure of a deeper inner situation. And as we discussed sometime in a few programs back, that I believe, and I think you might be able to believe too, that we're given to understand, first of all, by shrinks, that we are who we are today is a result of the total of all of our experiences in life. All of our experiences in life have made us who we are today, who we are, who we think, how we respond to things, how we react, and everything. And even whatever happened to you, even this program that you're watching right now, before you watched this portion of this program, you were different than you are right now. Everything that you experience, everything that you grasp. I mean, it may not be a noticeable difference in your life, but you are different because something has been added to you that wasn't there before. We're different. And some of the experiences that we have are really not even significant enough consciously to even recognize that something was done, but it has been logged into your mind, your subconscious, your memory banks. But then we have other issues that were traumatic, that were profound, so some of them negative, some of them positive as well, but the negative ones especially. Remember when I was young, my father was in Vietnam in 1966. I was about 8 years old. I was playing with some friends in Junction City, Kansas. I was the only little black boy there, but I didn't know it. I didn't know I was black, or I didn't know I was different. We were all just kids playing, and this boy calls me, and you know what he called me. It didn't even faze me at first. I didn't know what he was talking about. But then I began to understand not long after. Conflict when I was in the 3rd grade, you know, in elementary school. I was in a predominantly white school, and I was being accused of having stolen something, and I was being berated, and I was being attacked by 3 adult white folks, and I was just in the 3rd grade, and I was crying and crying. And we know you stole it, admit it, and I didn't steal it. And it was very interesting, that stayed with me all of my life. And when I was like 25 or 30 years old, I ran into one of those teachers. She was old and retired by then. I said, "You may not remember me, but this is what happened." And she apologized. She said, "I don't remember it happening, but if it stayed with you this long, I'm really sorry." And it was like I was relieved somewhat, because she was one of those 3 teachers. Other incidences through my life, racial incidences. And I realized that those things were a very real part of who I am today, even if I am not consciously thinking about those situations. So when I responded to that white supervisor in response to his negativity toward me, I wasn't just responding to that. I was responding to that boy Richard from Kansas. I was responding to those 3 teachers in elementary school. I was responding to all these other situations, all at that moment when I was responding to this gentleman. Because I'm convinced that there is nothing that we do consciously. I don't care whether it's getting up or walking or when we're watching a TV program, responding to this, responding to that, responding by a laugh or a cry or a chuckle or whatever. That we're not being moved subconsciously, prodded subconsciously by situations and experiences that we've had in our lives. Every conscious thing that we do is being moved and prodded by subconscious realities that we don't even comprehend at the moment. And so what I'm suggesting today is that we really don't know who we are. And the who we are today, for most of us, is not healthy. We have to find a way to deal with those situations, those incidences in our lives that cause us to respond the way we do. I mean, and look at sometimes if we take ourselves out of the situation. And look at Herman Cain, a black man, Republican. Look at Barack Obama, a black man, Democrat. Herman Cain has his issues. Obama has his issues. I'm sure if you ask Michelle, she'll probably give you a whole list of them. Okay, just like my wife or yours or your husband. But they're totally different men. 2 black men, but totally different. Why? Because their experiences were different. Bill Clinton, George Bush, different. You know who Esmeralda Esperanza is? I watched her last night on TV. She's a jazz bassist. Okay, and compare her to Hillary Clinton or Sarah Palin or somebody, right? 2 women, totally different. Different experiences, different environment, different exposures made them who they are today. Some of those exposures and experiences were positive, some of them were negative. Oftentimes, more often than not. The negative ones really are the ones that we're talking about, because those are the ones that impact us terribly. Those are the ones that have us responding however we do to certain folks. I'm sure that supervisor that I had that issue with, I mean, he's from Bellbrook. What issues was he carrying with him, with his experiences or his feelings and attitudes toward black folks when he came at me so negatively, and then I responded to his negativity. So really, you have two gentlemen that are responding in a conflict with each other, but they're both really not responding to each other, but responding to the issues that the other has. He's responding with his issues. I'm responding with my issues. So it's our issues that are conflicting with each other, not ourselves as individuals. I think there's an underlying or foundational truth in all humanity where we are one. There's a Sanskrit word, namaste. That means I honor the place in you where we are one. Namaste. And there's a place in all humanity and all human beings. We all emanate from the same source, whatever it is, whatever the Big Bang or the creation or however you want to view the reality of our existence. We all emanate from the same source. And so there is a place in all of us where we are one. And where we are not one are those things based on the experiences and exposures that we have that has created the individuality, the personalities that we are. And those negative personalities are the ones that I'm talking about. I mean, a very clear case in point are in the political realm, the battles that we're having between union folks and non-union folks. How the folks that are non-union really are negative toward union folks and want to shut them down. The people that are union folks are really negative toward the non-union people and bucking against that. And the reality is, if you go back, as far as two individuals, say that are not professionals, that are just people that went, say, 20 years ago and applied for jobs. One applied for a position that was not a union job, one applied for a position that was a union job, and they got those jobs. So 20 years later, these guys are pro-union, these guys are not. Now, if this guy had gotten accepted the job that this guy got, and this guy got accepted the job that guy got, then it would have been just the opposite. And now this guy would have been pro-union, and this guy would have been anti-union. And that's how we are today. We're not really too concerned with people who are not like us, and we only identify with folks who are like us. So what I'm suggesting today is those issues that we have with other folks are simply a product of the environment exposures that we came up in. Now we are. And so it's not really who we really are. Who we really are is that place in us where we are one. That's who we really are. And all this other stuff are sort of like plaque, on your teeth and gums, stuff that's been caked here from this time and that time and that time and that time. The real tooth is underneath. But we believe that plaque is so, as it hardens and it solidifies and it becomes just as hard as the enamel on the tooth. And we believe it is the tooth, and it's not. But it can be so connected that it just might as well be the tooth. But the inside is not. And I'm suggesting we need to begin to understand that, because what I'm suggesting is that this, not only is it the culprit to the conflicts that we have with each other, it's also the culprit that we have why we cannot seem to get ourselves out of the messes that we're in. And because we have bought in to this illusion of who we are not, as if it were. And so there's nothing in us to move us to step outside of it, because this is who I've accepted that I am. And I'm suggesting to you that it's not. And now this particular thing right here, we each have our particular gifts and our weaknesses. And my particular gift is I'm not bound by that. I do recognize that I'm not what I could be. And I'm not relegated to stay where I'm at. That I have an opportunity. I have opportunities to move outside of that which I could embrace as being me. And I try to take advantage of those opportunities that suit me. But it's still difficult, because even within that realm that I operate, there is still an outer layer that I am still dwelling in, where I still view myself. But in our neighborhoods today, we find find generations of folks that are just in the same boat their parents were in, and they're in the same boat their parents were in, and it will continue that way after they're gone. We have to come to a point where we can critically look at ourselves, critically examine ourselves, and recognize that what I have embraced, what I've attached myself to is not healthy, therefore it cannot be me. And that's the key. And sometimes it takes training. We have to train ourselves. I was expressing to my daughter, the martial artist. She's practicing martial art with the school, and I practice with her at home. So I used to practice the martial art. And I was explaining to her about the katas, how they move around, they do all their katas and their moves and all that stuff. And, well, what do you do that for? Well, I just do it. And I expressed to her that, no, it's like you're doing it. You're repeat it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times so those moves become natural, and she's not quite understanding. And then I threw my fist at her eye, and I stopped that close to it, and she blinked. I said, why did you blink? I said, you blinked because my hand was coming to your eye. Did you have to think about it? I better blink so it doesn't hit my eyeball. No, you blinked because you've been blinking ever since you were born, and it comes natural now. So I believe in practice. But that's why you have to repeat, repeat, repeat. So what you're repeating now becomes natural. So we have to find the lacks in our lives, find the areas in our lives that are weakness, find the areas in our lives that are not well, the areas in our lives where we have failed, where we've embraced things that are not good for us, and begin to work at it, and continuously work at it, until what is right becomes natural, and what's wrong begins to dissipate. And as I mentioned in the last program, man, I'm in school now. I've been going to school for years and years, and I'm so close. I got one class to take to get my degree, and I've been putting this off. It's an college algebra class that I just have very, very suffered. I've been suffering in, and I put it off to the last class that I needed to take of everything, and now I have to take this, and I've been trying this. I even gave up for 2 quarters because I was so frustrated. I'm starting back this quarter. But I had to come to first I had to examine that situation. And then I remember the last class I was in, I had to drop the class because I had taken the first class and I just bombed that test. And it's one thing if you bomb the test and say, well, I'm just going to make it on the next test. Like if it's history or sociology or something, those are easy. This is like, man, I was totally lost, and I bombed the first test, and I didn't even know, and we're on to the next part, so I had to drop that because I was not going to do well. You got to know your limitations, okay? And then I just laid out for 2 quarters, man. Forget it. Why am I doing this again? I got a job, But then I had to remember why I was doing it again, because I needed to do it again. Because there was something that I hadn't accomplished that I should. My children are watching, I just needed to do this. Plus my daughter, she's in the 1st grade now. I want to be able to, when she's in like high school or junior high school, and she's in algebra or trigonometry or calculus or whatever, I want to be able to help. And so I have to do this. So I had this idea. First I realized, I was thinking back on that class, on that first day of class when everyone introduced themselves and all that stuff, I remember that I was just about the only one in that class that had never taken that class before. So evidently just about everybody else in that class had dropped it too, because they were back in there for the 2nd time. And then they were pretty good. So what I did, I went to the bookstore, Barnes & Nobles, and I got Algebra 1 for Dummies. The yellow and black book, just about any subject you could imagine. Well, they have one for algebra. And I have it up in my little office, and every morning at 5 o'clock, I study for an hour. The book is like 300 and some pages long, and the last part of that book is right, the part of the algebra where I was really struggling in. And so I just started on page 1. Even stuff that was repetitious, things that I knew, I had a notebook, and I just answered every question they asked. Now I'm at like page 140 right now. I have about 20 days before school starts, and when I go to that algebra class, I'm going to know algebra. So all I'm trying to say is I recognize the lack in my life. I could have just said, oh, well, this is just the way that I am, and what do I need a degree for? And I still really don't need a degree, but it's like, why not? It's there. And I had to find a way. I didn't know how. That's what I teach my daughter. I say, look, you can't get this spinning back kick right. If you do it 100 times, you'll get it right. She plays the piano as well. This is her piano. I said, you got a song that you're struggling with. Pick any song in there, and you just play it 10 times every day. And that's just like 1 minute per time. So that's just 10 minutes a day, 10 times that one song every day. And I was teaching her some multiplication, so I said, in 7 days, how many will that be? I don't know. I said, well, how many is 10 times 1, 10 times 2, 20, 70 times in 1 week. And I said, 1 month, that's 280 times you'll play that song, or you'll throw that spinning back kick. I said, but within 1 month, you'll have it perfect, whatever it is. Recognize your weakness, figure out a way to accomplish it, and do it. So that's what I'm suggesting now. African Americans in this nation, it's a shame that we can have an African American president who has proved to us that of all this time in our lives, all these years, for me, 53 years, that a black man can do anything in this nation, okay? Now, of course, I can't be president, but I can do more than what I've done. I can better my standard of living. I can make some adjustments that are positive in my life and even be a positive example to those young people that are watching me saying, gosh, Dad is 53 years old and now he got a degree? So what I'm saying is there's something that you can do to better your life, to make your life better, even if it's not monetarily, financially, maybe physically. Stop smoking cigarettes, stop drinking, exercise a little bit, get yourself together, get more of an education, do something. Recognize what it is, as impossible as it may have seemed, and figure out a way to do it. And then do it. That's all I'm saying. Get out of that situation you're in. I feel like, I say that, I've probably said this a million times, but sometimes you have to step outside of yourself and look at your life and ask yourself, is this the way that it's really supposed to be? We bought into I used to drink a lot. And there's nothing, I'm not saying anything's wrong with drinking, but I was just thinking I don't drink. It's been 20-some years. And I'm thinking, man, I used to love to drink. I don't even think I like the buzz now. I like having my mind clear. Now, who'd ever thought that? I spent every night after work in the clubs, and weekends, Friday and Saturday in the clubs. When I'm at home, I have my liquor cabinets full. I love the buzz. Now, man, it's like, I don't even think I like that buzz. I enjoy being clear-minded. Sometimes we get trapped in situations that we think is supposed to be the way that it is, and it's not. Smoking cigarettes, come on. I used to smoke too, man. I was like 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. And smoking, smoking is legal. But if you think about it, you're taking smoke, actual smoke, into your lungs. Your lungs were built for air, for pure oxygen. And on the pack of the cigarettes, what does it say? So we're doing things and we're killing ourselves. I'm pretty much eating right, probably like 90% of the time in my life. Before I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and just peel like 3 or 4 potatoes and just fry them. You know what I'm saying? I would eat anything, anytime, killing myself. Now it's like, man, I'm 53 years old and feeling pretty good. I still have other things that I have to work on, that I'm working on. Getting enough sleep, that's one of them. Maybe if I stop getting up at 5 in the morning instead of hours, I have to try to get to bed earlier. But there's always something. And I don't mean to be crazy about it. I don't mean to be, obsessive about it. But just certain things that will just make your life better and be good examples to the young people that are coming up after you. We have to do something. We have to make a change. We have to allow our young people not to see our marriages breaking up. We have to let our young people not to see ourselves being attached to alcohol or depending on the lottery to make some money or letting our electricity and water get cut off. We have to find ways to make it right. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that we can. We just have to figure a way. Repetition, practice, muscle memory, studying. It's important. Don't be settled for who you are today if it's not healthy, if it's not right. Because it's not really who you were. It's not who you were created to be. We have cars that we make sure we have the right oil. We make sure we keep it detailed. We get to keep the paint job right, keep it armor all, keep it looking good. If we would just take care of ourselves as well as we take care of our vehicles, imagine that.